Hey guys, welcome back to Chris Means. They're going to go over the NFL Week 9 NFL Week 9 power rankings. Let me leave that up on the screen. And just so you know, this is part 1. This will be the bottom 16 teams. This will be from number 32 to number 17. If you're looking from 16 to 1, top 16 teams, in my opinion, the link should be popping up in the top of your screen right now, up in that little info box. You should be able to find it. You can watch it after this video, before this video, instead of this video. I don't care. Just know that it's there, for you to, and hopefully for you to enjoy. But yeah, for those of you who are gonna stay, let's go ahead and get into it. So, we're gonna start off with number 32, which is the Jets. Obviously, they are by far, in my opinion, just the worst team in the whole league. They don't really have any pluses. They're just so terrible. Their defense, I mean, really, the only plus on their team is Quinnen Williams, I guess. I don't know, and he's not even that good. And then you look, and Breshad Perriman is questionable with an injury. Jamison Crowder, questionable with an injury. Sam Darnold, again, is questionable with an injury. Things just keep on getting worse. And yeah. So the Jets, really, they're number 45th, but seeing as, they're just so far below the 31st team, which is the Giants, who actually managed to move down, despite the fact that they did have an okay showing against the Buccaneers. It's just the fact that, I can't look past, what they've been doing this whole season, and that is being pretty bad. So, yeah, the Giants are at 31st. They don't really have much. I know, again, they had a pretty good, game, and that was with Wayne Gallman, I'm pretty sure, as their number one running back. But still, they haven't been playing well at all this season, and I think they're going to be 31st. In 30th, you have the Cowboys, who dropped down a couple terrible games against the Eagles. They got beat 23-9. They've been blown out 3 straight games in a row. Andy Dalton's going to be coming back, but that doesn't really boost him up that much. I'm pretty sure if they still have Benucci, they might be in contention for 32nd. But the fact that, Andy Dalton's in there saves them from falling that far. But it's just the fact that they did so terribly against the Eagles, who aren't even good at all. Really, especially when we saw what they're doing against the Eagles, we saw they did against Washington. They're really one of the worst teams in the league, and they deserve to be down here. Their defense might be the worst in the league. It's the fact that they do have, I know I talk about how he's underperforming a lot, but Ezekiel Elliott is still on that offense, and they do have an okay receiving core. Though it's been all those guys have been underperforming this season. Despite the fact that they did have that, even when they had Dak Prescott, their offense was still underperforming. Next up, 29th. We have the Jaguars. See a picture of James Robinson right here. Speaking of James Robinson, he's really the only bright spot right now. And we can't talk about much because they had a bye week this week, so they didn't move at all. And if they had moved, it would have had a lot to do with teams moving around them. I guess every single movement is technically affected by the people moving around them. But the Jaguars, they had a bye week, so nothing's really changed. Next up in 28th, we have the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos managed to go out there, get a nice win against the Chargers, a comeback victory I didn't think was possible. Their offense looked pretty good. Obviously, their defense managed, especially towards the end of that game, to hold out. Their offense managed to come back. They looked pretty good this game, especially Phillip Lindsay had a pretty big game. And yeah, the Broncos, they're kind of picking up. So they're 3-4, so I wouldn't say things are great right now, but things are. They're okay for the Broncos. They're only 28th, but, it's definitely better than they were last week, in my opinion. Obviously, they beat the Chargers. Anyways, next up, we have the Texans, another team that had a bye week. Can't really say much about them. They're not, obviously, I have them at 27th for a reason. They haven't been playing terribly. They're 1-6, and I don't think there's going to be any higher. So, 27th is where the Texans go. Let's look at another team. Next up, we have the 26th place Falcons. The Falcons went out there. They got a nice win against the Panthers. And we're kind of starting to see some improvement because I think it might have been 2 or 3 weeks ago. I can't remember which. They actually got beat by the Panthers, and then they managed to come back, and they actually managed to beat the Panthers. And on top of that, they held a lead for the first time. I don't know when, but they had the Panthers driving down the field, down by 8, ready to score, and then they picked off Teddy Bridgewater towards the end, and they saved. They saved their team from yet another choke. But the Falcons, they're only 2-6. Their offense, while it has looked explosive, it's so inconsistent that I can't really trust it enough to put them any higher. Their defense is really, in my opinion, really subpar, and 26 is where they go. In 25th, we have Washington, another team that had a bye week. Can't really say much about them. They're not doing too well. Their offense managed to pick up speed a couple weeks ago. That's really all I can say. 25th is where they go. They managed to drop down only because of teams moving around them. Same thing with the Texans. Had to do with teams moving around them. Don't know exactly what it had to do with it, but they only moved because of the other teams around them. Moving on to the mess section, we have the Eagles, and officially we've gotten all of the NFC East teams just like that. The Eagles, despite the fact they got that win, they moved down by 3. They just didn't look very good. We saw how they beat the Cowboys by 8 less points than Washington did, which is no good. And you can't look at that and say, oh, well, the Eagles are worse than Washington because of this. No. Carson Wentz has not looked good this whole season, really. They kind of struggled in times against that tough Cowboys defense and offense, really. They got a touchdown off a fumble recovery, so really they only managed to score. And they also got a safety. The Cowboys actually took a safety, so that's 9 points. So they really only scored 14 points on offense, which just bodes terribly for them. I'd be looking at Jalen Hurts right now. I think the only reason that Jalen Hurts is not starting is because of the fact that they are technically first in the NFC East and they are still in contention for the playoffs. I think if they were in any other division, Jalen Hurts would be, if not starting, about to start. Next up, in 23rd, we have the Minnesota Vikings. They went out there. They managed to get a pretty good win against the Packers. Now, a lot of that had to do with the fact that the Packers' defense hasn't been the best lately, but you also have to look at the fact that the Vikings' defense really stepped it up this game. They only allowed the Packers, who, have had an amazing offensive performance in almost every other game this season. They only allowed them to score 22 points, so it was a really good win by the Vikings. I'm not going to overreact too much, but I move them up 2. They're out of the red into the orange, and and again, you might be saying, oh, well, they had a really good game. I think back week 4 or 5, they had a streak there where they had some pretty good games, and then they kind of collapsed. For all we know, we could be seeing that again. But anyways, they're 2-5. They just got a pretty good win against the Packers. They moved up a bit. They keep it up. They will move up even farther. But I think the season's over for them, but they could surprise us. In 22nd, we have the Bengals somehow only move up 1. Really big win there against the Titans. The Titans were looking like they were one of the best teams in the league, and they still are. And then the Bengals went out there and they beat them 31-20. We're starting to see this offense kind of click. They're starting to see what they can become. They're only 2-5-1 at the bottom of the division, but I say this a lot. They are looking like a team that could potentially be a Cardinals type team that goes and they get a rookie quarterback, play badly, add to that offense, and then do better. And they're not even playing too badly. They're 2-5-1. Last year they only won 2 games. They're already 100%. No matter what, their worst record is 2-13-1. They now are doing better at week 8 than they did their whole season. Well, week 9 than they did their whole season in 2019. So definitely a big step up. We could see this next year. Who knows? But the Bengals, finally saw that offense click a bit. I put them at first. Not at first. I moved them by 1. In 21st, we have the New England Patriots. It's not looking up. It's not looking good at all. You would think that they might put in Jarrett Stidham, but from what we've seen, Jarrett Stidham is just as bad as Cam Newton. Cam Newton is holding this team back. I know they just went out there and they lost, but they kept it close with the Bills. But a lot of that had to do with the fact that, in my opinion, the Bills are kind of on a downward slope right now. Slowly but surely, we've seen over these past couple weeks, they haven't played nearly as well, at least as they did in the first 5 weeks. We were hearing people say that Josh Allen could be the MVP. Those talks have kind of halted for right now. Despite the fact they're 6-2, they haven't been playing as well. You look at the Patriots, they lost to them, and Cam Newton played terribly. This defense is desperately trying to hold them up, but their offense is just no good, and we're starting to see that. So they dropped down 4 from 17th. And yeah, it's just getting worse and worse for the Patriots. And 20th, we had the Detroit Lions, who somehow, they dropped down 1 because they lost. They somehow only dropped down 1, despite the fact they lost by 21. I like how I say it, they somehow, and then I completely explain it. Okay, with the Lions, this offense has looked really explosive. Their defense had a pretty bad game, and they were going up against really one of the better teams in the league, in the Colts. The Lions, we got to look at the. Again, I'm not going to overreact too much. We've seen over these past couple weeks they have improved dramatically. And they're going up against one of the better teams in the league, and they just had an off game. If they keep it up again, they will drop down even more next week, and then the week after that, they will keep plummeting. And if they bounce back, that will send them up to 19th, 18th, 17th, somewhere in that range. We'll see. Then 19th, we have the Dolphins. They got Tua Tagovailoa, and he went out there and played about as good as you would expect him to. And they got, Dolphins fans would hope. He got the win against one of the best defenses in the league in the Rams. And they looked amazing. They looked like a really good team, in my opinion. They look like, I think they might be one of the underrated teams in the league, along with the Lions. I think, not enough people are talking about how good this team has become this season. They have a winning record of 4-3. They are in serious contention, like I just talked about, with the Bills kind of on a downward slope. I think, in my opinion, the Dolphins have a pretty good chance at this division. And no one's really talking about it, but they are, slowly becoming playoff contenders. Very, very sneaky team here, and they are at 19th. At 18th, we have the Bears. They don't move. They lost to the Saints, but they barely lost to the Saints. They brought the Saints into overtime, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that, again, Michael Thomas is still injured. The Bears, they're 5-3. They just lost 2 games in a row. They're kind of getting exposed. They played about as well as I expected them to. That's why I didn't really move. The Bears, 5-3. They really, their offense really needs to step it up. Their defense has been playing pretty well. 18th is where they go. They're doing meh. In the top of today, we're talking about the 17th Panthers. They somehow managed to move up by 3. I don't know how that happened, but it did. The Panthers, because they're getting Christian McCaffrey back. That's why. So I do these on like a day before I actually record them. It's because they're getting Christian McCaffrey back. They're finally going to get the best player in their team back. Finally, Christian McCaffrey is healthy, or is expected to be healthy, and then you're going to need him because they're going up against the Chiefs this weekend. So, and they're 3-5. I think they've officially probably fallen out of playoff contention, especially because after this game, they're probably going to end up being 3-6. I don't see them beating the Chiefs, but we'll talk about that more whenever we get to my predictions. Again, post those tomorrow, so keep an eye out for that. Anyways, the Panthers, that defense is starting to click. I know they lost, but they played pretty well during it. They had a few drives there. P.J. Walker was their quarterback. Teddy Bridgewater had gotten injured, and now that they're getting Teddy Bridgewater for a whole game, hopefully, and they have Christian McCaffrey back, the Panthers, they're looking like a pretty good shape. I think despite if they weren't 3-6, they would definitely be playoff contenders right now. Well, they're 3-5. If they beat the Chiefs, then that says a lot about them. But right now, 3-5, possibly going to be 3-6. We'll see. And that is going to do it for this video. If you're wanting to watch part 2 right now, go ahead and watch that. It'll be, in the info box up there. The link is probably already passed. And yes, so go ahead and watch that. Or if you're coming from part 2, thanks for watching them both. Anyways, just do as you wish. You can watch part 2 in an hour. You cannot watch. You might, decide not to watch part 2. It's not up to me. Subscribe if you like football, or if you like. We post NFL videos every single day or most days. As long as I'm not busy or something crazy like that, then we will 100% post, or I will. Thank you guys all so much for watching this video. I hope to see you in the next video. In fact.